if you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
51-0, Donnie.
Yeah.
Those numbers don't lie. Georgia, every time they rush for over 200 yards, that's dating back from 2017 against FCS and FBS opponents. They don't lose. The 2 years that they won back-to-back national championships, year one, they rushed for over 208 times. Year two, when they beat TCU, that year they rushed for over 206 times.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scottaboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Hey everybody, welcome in. This is Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman with you for the next 90 minutes. We are going to have some of your favorite SportsGrid personalities joining us throughout the program. Mark Zinno, Tom Vecchio, Craig Mish, Cam Stewart, all on the way during this show, and we are going to do a lot of baseball as we count down the regular season and look toward the playoffs, and of course, NFL. There's going to be plenty of football news around the league today. Just got an alert only a moment ago. Chris Godwin, a full participant in practice. Could he play for the 3-0 Buccaneers this weekend? So exit Mike Evans and enter Chris Godwin to help out Emeka Egbuka. That is entirely a possibility there for Tampa Bay. Should be fun to look forward toward that game as well. We'll mix in some Ryder Cup thoughts with our guy Cam Stewart. How is the Canadian going to bet the United States against the Europeans? I am eager to find out, as I'm sure you are as well. The U.S., with this tournament being held in New York, the betting favorites. But again, we'll explore all of that a little bit later on. We begin on the diamond where there already are games in progress. However, not the Tigers and Guardians. This one was supposed to be underway. Game 2 of the series after Detroit's loss with Tarek Skubal on the mound last night. Tigers have blown a double-digit lead in the standings this month alone. The Guardians, now the favorites to win the AL Central, with each sitting, as you see, at 85 and 72. This game delayed due to weather. It has yet to start. It is supposed to get going in about 45 minutes. We will be on with you, and of course, we'll keep you posted. Now, that is one very exciting race in the American League Central. We also, as it relates to the wild card in the National League, this right here is fascinating. 3 teams, you see the playoff picture, are battling. So Cubs, Padres, they're already locked in as wild card teams at the very least. The Pods, as we know, could conceivably still win the National League West and overtake the Dodgers, who are the betting favorites to win the championship. Once again, we know that. But that leaves these 3 shooting for the final wild card spot in the NL. The Mets, the Diamondbacks, the Reds. The Mets sitting there right now, only a game ahead, as you were looking at, of the Reds and Diamondbacks. And all 3 of these teams are going to be in action. Matter of fact, momentarily, Pirates and Reds will get underway. That game starts in about 5 minutes. This one, fascinating contest because you have Paul Skeens, who Pirates have been a little inconsistent with. Are they going to not shut him down, but limit him? Only a couple of starts ago, for instance, he pitched 5 scoreless innings. They took him out after around 65 pitches. Will the Pirates be doing that again today? That has a lot of people on the Reds. Not only that, but the desperation, plus Hunter Green, hell of a pitcher. Mets, Cubs, they will get started in about an hour and a half, and about an hour and a half after that, 3 hours from now, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. So a lot of fun stuff in front of us. American League Most Valuable Player odds. Let's get into that because suddenly we have ourselves a race. Not just playoff races, but a race for AL MVP. And right now, essentially a pick'em. Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees and Cal Raleigh of the Seattle Mariners. You see it, coin flip, minus 115 aside. Judge, of course, the reigning MVP, also the 2022 winner. Raleigh, the home run derby champion, not quite the same as winning MVP, might hit 60 homers for the American League West winners in Seattle this year. And in this one, it's going to come down to the wire here in these final days, final handful of games of the regular season. You have to wonder if the Blue Jays are able to hang on in the American League East in front of the Yankees. We know the Yankees are a playoff team, but if the Jays win the division and not the Yankees, Yankees are a wild card team, and then the Mariners win their division, coupled with the fact that, again, Judge has already won the award twice, won it last year. Is there voter fatigue? Remember, humans decide this stuff. Could Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, be looking his way toward an AL MVP for the first time in his career? Personally, I'd like to see it. It's always fun when new blood gets involved in this stuff. NFL. Going to be a lot of NFL in the program, including Tom Vecchio joining us a little bit later on. Top of the next hour, we'll get into some target player props with Vecchio, exploring just, again, we don't have all the odds for what these player props are going to look like, but that's sort of the fun of the segment, investigating and coming up with, okay, well, what number would we be looking for to where we want to go over? Would we want to look under? Some of the players that we are going to explore tonight include DK Metcalf there with Pittsburgh now, of course, not totally on the same page with Aaron Rodgers at the moment. Bucky Irving for Tampa Bay. Again, a limited Buccaneers team at the moment, but that could change if Chris Godwin comes on back. Ashton Genty off to a slow start to his rookie season there with the Raiders. In fact, he has fallen out of the top 5 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Probably shocking to people as he was the favorite going into the season. And Ladd McConkey, who suddenly has, I don't know, maybe become a third option in that offense. Maybe not in terms of consistency and target share, but explosiveness, that has been Quentin Johnston. And first down chain moving, that's old favorite Keenan Allen. Justin Herbert has himself a couple of safety blankets in LA right now. So what are the expectations for Ladd McConkey, who's had kind of an up and down first few games for the 3-0 Chargers? We will explore that with Vecchio as well. Thursday Night Football, we'll look ahead to that because, as we know, a little more than 24 hours away. Seahawks, they are road favorites in the desert. Couple of 2-1 teams, Seattle and Arizona. Seahawks were 2.5-point dogs at open. Now 1.5-point favorites. I think pretty easy to understand why. Yes, Arizona is 2-1, but look at who the Cardinals have played versus the tougher schedule and just the more talented, more balanced team that the Seahawks put forth. You know, we're still waiting for Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. to get on the same page. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba, a la, Darnold and Justin Jefferson last year in Minnesota, have had an incredible connection. JSN has been awesome to start the year. So is it as easy as it looks backing Seattle, be it with the points or on the money line, throw them in a parlay, do what you want to do with it? Is this the easy answer? We will explore Thursday Night Football a little bit in front of us as well. Ryder Cup gets going this weekend, specifically Friday. So, day and a half from now in New York. Bethpage, this one, Bethpage Black course in Farmingdale, New York. And notable because obviously here on American soil now, Keegan Bradley's U.S. team against Luke Donald's European team. There's been the consistency in recent years, dating back to 2014, the teams win on their own soil. U.S. hosts, Europe hosts, it's a win for those clubs. And the Americans are favored in large part probably because of that. Because, yeah, they've got the best golfer in the world in Scotty Scheffler. But if you look at the depth of roster, depth of team that Donald has assembled, you could argue that the Europeans at plus money might be the better buy. We'll find out what Cam Stewart thinks. U.S. last fell on its own soil in 2012, Medina in Illinois, when Europe was able to take that. But again, over a decade ago. And going back to the NFL, we will take a look around just the league in week 4. This is when it starts to get maybe a little more interesting here. We're not quite at buys. Those will come in week 5, but we do have a little bit of chaos on the schedule. We've got the international series for the NFL beginning with a game in Dublin, Ireland. That is going to be 9:30 Eastern coming up on Sunday morning, with the Vikings and Steelers doing battle, a pair of Monday night games once again. This one not staggered quite as well as the last time around. We have Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, and Broncos, so not the marquee games. But we do have marquee games on Sunday. How about the Ravens and Chiefs? Potentially a preview of the AFC Championship game, although also two teams that are off to 1-2 starts. So we'll see about that. And we also have a couple of 3-0 teams matching up, the Eagles and those Buccaneers that I have told you about as well. So that should be a fun one to look ahead to. Stick around. We will have Mark Zinno join us next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
You're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last
But they
year?
had marquee wins at some point
I don't
last
care. They
year.
lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Back on Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and over the next couple of segments, and for that matter, the next almost hour and a half, we're going to prove it to you. Collection of guests, and the first one who is a host and analyst here across the grid, Mark Zinno. You can get him on Twitter at that very same name. Get into some baseball. Mark, how you doing?
Adam, good to be with you as always. Winding down the Major League Baseball season. Looking forward to a big college football weekend as well.
There you go. And playoffs for baseball right around the corner, which is always exciting. So we have a couple of games in progress right now. One that obviously happened earlier as well, turned into a nail biter by the end. The Braves falling at home to the Nationals. The Brewers right now trying to end a skid and hand the Padres a first loss in what feels like forever. They had entered this game riding a 4-game winning streak, but right now 2-1 top 9. Milwaukee is leading this game in San Diego. The Rays, top of the first, already up 1-0 in Baltimore, and the Tigers and Guardians, due to a weather delay, not quite underway yet. That one's supposed to get started in about a half hour. Rays Orioles, though, let's start with that one. I realize, this for these two teams is not a remarkably meaningful game. Obviously they've been eliminated. Nevertheless, there are always edges to be found. So what did you see here?
Well, Tyler Wells for the Orioles in his 3 starts has been fantastic. And he is a guy that, they're trying to build on. So for young pitchers like this, these starts all matter, regardless of what the team scenario is as far as the playoffs is concerned. And not only that, they're facing Shane Baz, who is not been good this year. I mean, you just look at his numbers all along. This is a guy with a ERA that's pushing 5 and a WHIP that's 1.3. I know he's got slightly better numbers on the road here, but this is an Orioles team that's quite familiar with him, and a team that, I think when it comes down to it, again, young guys on the Orioles are playing for job security. They're playing for everything else here. And just like the spot here for Baltimore, they've been a better team the second half. And I thought that they would have a good performance last night. I know Wells got touched up for a run at the top of the first. A lot of baseball left, obviously, so we're not going to sweat too much at this point. But nonetheless, I like the Orioles tonight on a short money line price.
Yeah, maybe if you were on a first 3 bet or something like that, but I don't know how many people are placing those. This game that we got coming in a half hour, again, would have been fun if we were already underway, but we'll wait, I suppose, like everybody else. Tigers and Guardians, and it's fascinating what's going on in the American League Central. You go back to early September, and Detroit had a 10-plus game lead on Cleveland, and they have just absolutely imploded. We saw earlier in the year how hot they were and how cold they then got coming out of the break, and it's really not slowed down. It's just kind of ebbed and flowed. Meanwhile, Cleveland on the other side, looking to hand Detroit now an 8th straight loss. I personally thought that streak was going to end last night. I invested in Detroit and Tarek Skubal. It's funny how many people, I guess Guardians fans, told me that was a hot take. I didn't know that a minus 140 bet could be a hot take, but it sure felt like it by the end. And then, of course, Cleveland goes out, does what it does, wins it plus money again. How do you see this one playing out? Who's going to be in sole possession of first by the end of the night?
Well, I took the total. I went over 7.5. Look, if I think the Tigers are going to snap this, they're going to have to finally start scoring some runs. And that was a big part of it. You have 2 starters in this game, and Jack Flaherty and Tanner Bybee, who are not particularly good. Like, I was surprised to see this 7.5. Now, I know a lot of the games in this season series between these two teams have stayed under the number, but if the Tigers are going to do this, they're going to have to put up 4 or 5 runs in this game to be able to do it. And that's kind of what I'm relying on. I mean, there's a world where they can win this thing 3-2. Absolutely. But because both of these pitchers have actually had success against these particular opponents, that means Flaherty against the Guardians and Bybee against the Tigers. But this is an urgent spot here for Detroit, obviously. And with the game on the line, or the season on the line, the division on the line, these are 2 teams right now that I think the bats are going to come alive for. And Cleveland has scored the 5th most runs in baseball this month. So they've been hitting everybody, as we saw last night with Skubal, despite the fact that there was a wild pitch and an error and a balk and all these other things that went wrong here. But this number seemed like it was something to take advantage of. I know there were some 8s popping up earlier in the day, so we're trending towards the over here. But the rain delay always makes me nervous. Always makes me nervous. I never, as soon as I see a rain delay in any game, I'm like, okay, well, that's a loss. They never seem to work out for me. So I'll keep my fingers crossed here. The bats will wake up a little bit later.
Urgent spot for Detroit, obviously sitting, right now only a game in front of Houston entering the night, but at least in the 3rd wild card spot as it exists currently, maybe even just that much more urgency for Cincinnati, who's underway and scoreless in the 1st inning with Pittsburgh, because this Reds team, we talked about it earlier in the show, is sitting tied with Arizona and a game back of the Mets for that final wild card spot in the National League. A lot of people in the betting community seem to be on Cincy today, which I thought was interesting. Yes, obviously there's the desperation, it's a meaningful game. Hunter Green is really good, all of that, but you're also going against Paul Skeens. So I don't know if you had an official play on this one, but how did you look at this game? How did you handicap it?
Paul Skeens, you just have to play the price when it's right. Paul Skeens is an underdog. Is a worthwhile price to play the Pirates at, period. That's just the reality of it because he's not often an underdog, so you have to try to take advantage of it. That said, I looked at the first 5 under 3.5 between these two teams. I mean, Hunter Green's ERA at home is 1.4. Opposing hitters are only batting $130 against him at the Great American Ballpark. So why fight it? I mean, it was pretty juiced for 3.5, which you almost never see a juice to the under at 3.5. It's usually juice to the over. But nonetheless, with these two starters, I'm willing to bank that they're going to get through the first 5 here with no runs. Interestingly enough, I played the first 5 under between these two teams last night. I don't know if you tracked this. They had played 10 games prior to last night. The first 9 games of the series all went under the total. The 10th game, they combined for 22 runs. Of course, I only played the under in the first 5 last night. 6 runs were scored between the two teams in the second inning, and they didn't score a single run the rest of the game, and the game stayed under the full game. So that's the cruelty of betting baseball right there. So, I think they'll go back to under tonight. Yeah, it was just miserable. That's betting baseball in a nutshell there.
As our friend Brady Cannon always likes to say, you need a bottle of whiskey and a revolver to bet baseball because it is it is dicey, man. We're going to get into some of these playoff races, especially building upon what's going on in the wild card standings. Both leagues coming down to the wire. A lot of teams have clinched. Not all divisions have been fully locked up as well, though. So a lot of excitement here in the final week of the Major League Baseball's regular season. Mark Zinno will rejoin me when we come on back. Stick around here on Game Time Decisions.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I would say a phenomenal year for the UConn graduate, as Paige Beckers could have came out last year to the WNBA, and she decided to come out this year. It would have been interesting if it would have been Paige or Caitlin Clark. I don't think it would have been as slam dunk as people think to go to Caitlin Clark.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Back with Mark Zinno, looking ahead at Major League Baseball tonight. Games that are in progress. Brewers have taken a 3-1 ninth inning lead on the Padres, going bottom 9 to San Diego with its winning streak in jeopardy, needing a couple runs to push this to extras. Rays at the end of one, lead 1-0 in Baltimore. Scoreless games, Pirates, Reds, Marlins, Phillies. Let's look at the American League East, and I guess by virtue, the American League wild card race as well, because nothing has been locked up. We know, Mark, Blue Jays have obviously clinched a playoff spot. So have the Yankees. Red Sox are battling. They're in a wild card position right now. But things are, still in flux on account of the fact, in part, that the Red Sox and Blue Jays are playing each other. And you have Garrett Crochet you talked about when the number's right for a guy like Paul Skeens. Well, number's right for a guy like Garrett Crochet tonight. Minus 125 on the money line for the Red Sox in Toronto against a struggling Max Scherzer in what for the Red Sox is really not a literal must win, but pretty damn close. You got a 1-game lead on the Tigers, sitting in the second wild card spot right now. And of course, the Astros sitting another game back of Detroit. So this thing is far from wrapped up. How would you look at this game?
Two ways to look at this number, like we just talked about. Hey, it's a pretty advantageous place for Garrett Crochet, who might be the American League Cy Young Award winner when it's all said and done. But I also lean Toronto in this spot. I mean, I know Scherzer was awful his last time out. I think he gave up 7 runs and didn't get an out, or maybe only got 1 out, whatever it was. And Toronto's been a very good team at home. I think that there's a desperation spot here for Toronto. I like playing on desperate teams. They need this more than the Red Sox do, who are kind of firmly planted in the wild card at this point in time. So not that the Red Sox would, lay down or anything like that, but the point simply is that, this has been a very good Toronto team at home. They're one of the better teams when it comes to home record in the league. When you talk about them, winning 50 games at home this year, there's only 3 other teams that have won 50 games at home, and they've already all clinched playoff spots in the Dodgers, Brewers, and Phillies. So you try to take advantage of this spot here, given how bad Toronto has been of late. I think they've lost 5 of 6 or 6 or 7. I kind of just lean Toronto here, especially after last night when they lost. They're probably kind of ticked off in the way that they lost in the questionable call early in the game that led to them not scoring runs. So I think Toronto here has a good shot to get to Crochet. And if we get into a game of bullpens here, it's kind of a coin flip. And I think that's kind of what Toronto is hoping to look for.
Well, and he's had some issue with the long ball of late as well. So the Yankees, that obviously a team that you pay close attention to, they're sitting just a game back, second, leading the wild card, second in the division, game behind Toronto. And the Blue Jays, obviously, if they can win tonight, it puts that much more pressure on New York. But if Crochet can handle his job, help the Red Sox, Blue Jays lose, then all of a sudden you're looking at a New York team that could be at the end of the night tied, obviously, at the top of the American League East. Massive pitching advantage with Max Fried, who's been excellent this year on the mound. The thing is there any way to even bet this game unless you happen to like the White Sox on the other side? Even if you went Yankees money run line, because the money line is pushing 4-1. Even the run line is minus 170 or so, Mark. So is this just a stay away spot?
I mean, I still would lean Chicago plus the 1.5. Does anybody know what Chicago's game and record is in 1-run games this year? 14-35. Now think about that. If they had actually won the games that they lost and flipped it and were 35-14, they'd be in the playoffs. Like that's where this team is all year long. And it's just a sign that they've flown under the radar. They're not as bad as you think they are. That said, the pressure is still on the Yankees, and it boils down to the same thing over and over again. If the Yankees don't hit home runs, they don't score. And so you really have to evaluate here, can the Yankees get to Fraser Ellard? And they're going to go with a bullpen game. Can they get to the White Sox bullpen? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's really what this boils down to. I mean, the Yankees had second and third last night with 1 out. And I think it was in the second inning of a 1-0 game, and they didn't push another run across, and that included Aaron Judge getting up, even though he was intentionally walked. But the point is, again, I go back to, if you keep the Yankees in the ballpark, this game is going to be close. So with that level of variance, don't know that I necessarily want to get involved, but the White Sox plus 1.5 here feels like probably the play that you lean on.
We've only got about 20 seconds, Mark, but we were talking about it earlier. Judge, Raleigh, who's the MVP?
Raleigh's finally tied in the odds. It's a big shift. I think Raleigh might actually end up pulling this thing out.
Mark Zinno, again, is on Twitter, at Mark Zinno, again, a host and analyst here across the SportsGrid Network. Mark, thanks so much.
sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I would say a phenomenal year for the UConn graduate, as Paige Beckers could have came out last year to the WNBA. And she decided to come out this year. It would have been interesting if it would have been Paige or Caitlin Clark. I don't think it would have been as slam dunk as people think to go to Caitlin Clark.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
One hour to go here on Game Time Decisions with guests on the way. Tom Vecchio will join us in about 10, 12 minutes. We will get into some player prop targets in the NFL for Week 4. Make sure you stick around. Stay tuned for that. Adam Kaufman here with you in for Kevin Walsh. And we've got, again, fun show. Our thanks to Mark Zinno for joining us. Let's keep the baseball conversation going just a little bit as well, because, again, we can't highlight enough quite how tight some of these races are. And just to update you, because maybe you're not glued to it the way we are, scoreboard watching all of it. The American League East, particularly compelling. The Toronto Blue Jays, who are getting started at home against the Boston Red Sox momentarily. Again, it's a battle of Garrett Crochet, who, as Mark said, might be the Cy Young winner when all is said and done in the American League. Absolutely is pitched like it, regardless of whether he beats out Terrence Skubal for the award. And then on the other side, you have a struggling Max Scherzer, who, as we know, nearing the end of an illustrious career that he has had. He has struggled of late. Crochet has had a little issue with the long ball, as I mentioned earlier, but generally speaking, has been excellent, especially in striking guys out. And it is an important game for both of these teams. The Blue Jays, who are trying to not give up position because they only lead one game on the New York Yankees for the top spot in the American League East. Yankees, of course, the top wild card team as it exists right now in the AL. But the Red Sox fighting for their playoff lives. You know, they're in position, second wild card spot right now, but only have a game advantage on Detroit behind them. And so there is, you know, no ability to just sort of sit back, rest on their laurels as they are right now. And, you know, unlikely to catch, obviously, Toronto or New York top spot in the division, 4 games back right now, run out of games to play, but wanting to make sure they lock in that wild card spot. And AL Central is as compelling as it gets, though, as we have noted. You know, there is no guarantee that whichever team does not win this division is going to be a wild card team. Right now, both are, again, right there in the mix, but you're looking at the Houston Astros, a team that in all likelihood is not going to catch up with Seattle and win that division, and so it is really wild card or bust for the Astros, who are in action much later on tonight against the Athletics. And so for Detroit and Cleveland, the urgency is on winning that division, obviously, and not wanting to leave their wild card playoff fates into the hands of other teams across baseball. But there's a lot in the AL that's wide open right now. Over in the National League, meanwhile, New York Mets, we know, not going to obviously, mathematically come even close to catching up with Philadelphia and win the division, but trying to take care of business in the wild card standings, but having to battle the Cincinnati Reds, the San Diego Padres, possibly the Arizona Diamondbacks, pardon me, and we'll see if the Padres end up winning the NL West. Entirely possible they can catch up with the Dodgers, only right now a game and a half back. Of course, they took a crucial loss to the Milwaukee Brewers today, which dropped them that additional half game. So we'll see if the Dodgers can stretch that to 2 games. Then life gets a whole hell of a lot tougher there in the NL West. But looking around at the wild card standings, as we've talked about, Cubs, Padres, we know in whatever order, they're the top 2 teams in the wild card. They've clinched their playoff spots. But then you got these 3 teams, Mets, Reds, Diamondbacks, all battling, all trying to get themselves in, obviously. And so we look ahead to what we have, again, a little bit later on as the Rays take a 2-0 lead on the Orioles. Other games are scoreless. That includes the Reds at home against the Pirates. Paul Skeens dealing early, inning in 2/3, already has 3 Ks. Talked about the Yankees with Max Fried, who's 18-5, might win 20 games if he can come around and get another start. 2.92 ERA going up against a vastly inferior White Sox team. Yankees 30 games better, literally, in the standings than Chicago, just to give you a little perspective. But as we talked about, roughly minus 400 on the money line, even minus 170 on the run line. There's a real lack of value to betting New York unless you throw them in a money line parlay, which is something I did, by the way. The Yankees on the money line with the Mariners, who, again, this is a team heavily favored, right around minus 300 at home, with Castillo and his roughly 3.5 ERA going up against Gordon of the Rockies and his 6 mark on the other side. This is a Mariners team that, as we discussed, is playoff bound, in all likelihood going to win that division. Still trying to cement it, though, playing for something. Cal Raleigh looking for that MVP, and I'm sure, he won't say he's targeting it per se, but I'm sure it's important to him. I'm sure a lot of that behind the scenes is a bit unspoken. Dodgers at the Diamondbacks. Again, massively important game, both of these teams. The Diamondbacks are trying to get themselves in position to be in the wild card mix. I mean, they're in the mix, but to get into a wild card position come the end of the regular season, whereas the Dodgers just trying to hold off the Padres and lock up this division, even though they know they're going to be in the playoffs. They would, like to avoid that wild card playoff round and take away some element of chance there. Snell, 2.5 ERA against Nelson, who's pitched very well this year. I see value on Arizona plus 125 with Ryan Nelson on the mound the way that he has been going. Again, the Astros, Athletics later on. Hunter Brown, 2.30 ERAs, 12-8. Severino up and down this season, as we know. A lot of people are going to be looking toward the over just on account of the fact that this game is in Sacramento where the balls tend to fly out of the yard, and we've been watching it all throughout the season. Houston, I think, is a very good bet at minus 130, and you might even be able to shop it around, find it a hair better as we get closer to first pitch in that one. I have no problem leaning into the desperation of some of these teams that we're going to see in front of us doing battle tonight, and that, again, includes this Red Sox and Blue Jays game where you have 2 desperate teams that both got underway. It's just when, and I mentioned this to Mark, when you're so used to seeing a guy like Garrett Crochet and Ace at a minus 190 number or so, maybe even minus 250, depending on the matchup, obviously, when you can get him at right around minus 125 and maybe a hair more, obviously, on the first 5, and take the bullpen out of it. I think it makes a lot of sense to lean into a pitching matchup. I'm all for it. Over in the NFL, just some news and notes from throughout the day here as we look toward week 4. Micah Parsons, he's got his revenge matchup with the Dallas Cowboys as Green Bay will visit Dallas. Jerry Jones, the owner, was asked if there would be a tribute video. He said he didn't think that would be appropriate. Honestly, I don't disagree with old Jerry there. I don't think when you're there for 4 years and you don't win anything, and I don't mean individually, but as a team, I don't think it really constitutes a tribute video. Maybe in this, 2025, everyone gets a trophy era, but generally speaking, let's be honest, I don't think Micah Parsons is looking for one either. And, the way that he went out and was traded away, not that he wasn't paid, obviously, but just the manner in which it all unfolded. I think he'd like to just get in, get out with a win. And he said as much. He wants his tribute to be a win against this team. And the way the Packers lost their last game, melting down in the final minutes in Cleveland, they're going to be out to turn things around. And I like them to cover a touchdown spread. I think that number ought to be bigger. We have Jackson Dart, as you already know, in all likelihood, starting for the New York Giants in place of Russell Wilson. So the rookie will get his first opportunity. Brian Daboll, the head coach, said it was his decision, not influenced from above. Jaden Daniels feels good, but whether or not he will play is going to come down to the Commanders' team doctors. Quite frankly, I think even with Marcus Mariota, who just put up 41 points, by the way, I think if Mariota is out there, I think the Commanders still in good shape to come away with a win. At least gives them a solid chance. And also, again, Chris Godwin, full participant in practice for the Buccaneers today, looking like he is getting closer and closer to returning. Xavier Worthy maybe returning from that shoulder injury again for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Baltimore Ravens this weekend as well. So a lot happening across the NFL and Major League Baseball. More NFL on the way with Tom Vecchio.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
If you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had
Notre
marquee
Dame.
wins at some point.
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Back on GTD, and pleased to bring in TV, not just on your TVs where you're watching us on the SportsGrid app, but Tom Vecchio, who is on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio and the number one. Adam Kaufman back with you as we are halfway home here on the program. Vecchio, how's it going, bud?
I'm doing well. Great time, really, across the world of sports. We are, as I said the other night, we're in the middle of football season. It's the best time to be a baseball fan, in my opinion, as we're coming down to the end. Teams are collapsing, teams are winning, and hockey season is right around the corner, just about 2 weeks away. So I am pumped for that.
Amen, man. Red Sox have just taken a 1-0 lead, top of the first as well, which is certainly helpful in their pursuit of a win, of some wild card cushion, and of course, helping out Garrett Crochet. Maybe a little nervy there in Toronto for the hometown Blue Jays, with the Yankees just getting underway as well. They could be tied atop the AL East by the end of the night. We'll track it all here on the show. But let's get into some NFL target player props here for week 4, my friend. And we begin with an interesting player who's still trying to kind of find his footing, a veteran with a fellow veteran, Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about DK Metcalf. As we pull up some of what he has done so far, averaging about 45 yards per game here on the young season. That's not a lot. Had 83 back in week 1 against the Jets, the revenge game for Aaron Rodgers, but since has been stifled by the Seahawks, 20 yards, the Patriots, 32 yards. You can see well below his prop lines that were in the 60s, and now he's got a matchup coming up with a Vikings team that, as we know, is certainly capable of shutting down opposing wide receivers. What do you think that number winds up looking like? I mean, are we dipping below 60 here?
I would have to think so, and I do see it posted at 50.5. It was 49.5 earlier in the day, and my issue with taking the over is, A, we're dealing with unique circumstances. Obviously, this game is an international game in Ireland, right? So there's always like, the travel, how does that affect players, whatnot. And then B, like you said, the really tough defense on the Viking side of things. And I would say adding a third thing, C, would be the player that Metcalf should be, at least in my mind, is he should be a dominant option in the receiving game with a minimum of a 25 or so % target share. When we're looking at what the Steelers have done thus far this year through 3 games, Metcalf has a 20.7% target share. Calvin Austin is at 18.3. Jonnu Smith is at 15.9. Jalen Warren is at 14.6. Pat Fryermuth is at 12.12. Like, it is a really, really spread out passing offense, and there's no one player. So if the Vikings do what I think they should do and try to eliminate him from the passing game, the ball's going to be spread around. DK is not going to have 9, 10 targets. He may have 6, but getting through 50 against a very tough defense, I don't love it.
Yeah, just to read you what you've got on the screen in case you're just listening to Tom and not paying attention to these wonderful graphics that our team has built to further highlight the ability to shut down opposing number ones for the Vikings defense so far. That secondary, again, Rome Odunze, 37 yards. Drake London, 49. Jamar Chase, a beast, and yet only 50. And so, yeah, the underplay on DK Metcalf, again, it feels kind of nuts, right? Going under 50 yards for DK Metcalf, but off of what he's done in 2 recent weeks, and then you put it with all that sample size, it's hard to ignore. So let's keep going. Let's talk about the run game, maybe the run game for Tampa Bay, Bucky Irving, and the anytime touchdown. Now, he only has 1 touchdown here this season through 3 games, Tom, and it was a receiving touchdown, no less. He didn't even run for it, which is interesting. Now, Mike Evans is out, and so that's just going to create a little uncertainty within that offense, a little more creativity for the play calling as well. But worthy of noting, Chris Godwin may return full participant in practice this week, although he hasn't played in so long, we don't know what he's going to look like. But between Godwin, obviously, Emeka Egbuka, you might be number 1 in his fan club, Cade Otton, who was really important to this offense late last year when guys were sidelined. What room is there for Irving to find the end zone?
I think his role will be consistent, as it really is. Rashad White's going to be in the mix. I just don't like the price, at least what I saw to start the week on Bucky Irving. I saw it at plus 115. That's a pretty light line, especially going up against the Eagles, who have been pretty good, all things considered, especially on defense when it's all said and done. If that number got a little bit higher, closer to 130, I could certainly buy in at that point. The Chris Godwin dynamic is by far the most interesting because he is a full participant at practice, like you said, is a report we got today, but that doesn't mean he's going to see a full complement of snaps come Sunday. We may get a report saying he's only going to play half the snaps. He's a full practice, but we're going to work him into the offense, and it's going to be 50% of the snaps, 60, 70, pick a number, and that's just some report we could be getting. I would honestly take a longer shot and go to someone like Sterling Shepard, and I would forego all these players and go for much deeper. This is to say if you don't get a good number on Bucky Irving at plus 130 or so.
Eagles have scored allowed 3 rushing touchdowns in the first few games of the year. Again, Bucky Irving fully capable of finding the end zone, but we'll see. One running back to another, and a guy who is disappointed out of the gate to start off his rookie year, at least compared to the offensive rookie of the year expectations. Ashton Jeanty, obviously for the Las Vegas Raiders, Pete Carroll's Raiders. Now, he had his best game of the season last time out, and it was a blowout loss, no less, to the Commanders. 17 carries, 63 rushing yards. Chicago was allowed almost 140 rushing yards per game, 25th worst so far to open up the year. Chicago was also allowed back-to-back opposing backs to go for 75 plus rushing yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 94. Javonte Williams, 76. You can see it there on your screen. And so, is this the blow-up game? Is this the game that Jeanty announces his presence in the NFL?
I'm sitting here and, the line I often like to use, especially when it comes to baseball, is like, if not now, when? Right? If a team can't get it done against a bad pitcher, like, when are they going to get it done? It's like, Jeanty, if he can't get it done against this type of defense, like, ultimately, it's not his fault. The offensive line for the Raiders is atrocious. And looking at some of the stats that he has about yards before contact and yards after contact, you're crazy. So I would look to Jeanty if you get a good number on it. I'm seeing in the mid-60s. If it drops a little bit closer to 60 flat or 61, I would absolutely look at the over, because this is the matchup that he should be able to get it done in.
We have another player, Ladd McConkey, to look at, which we will do on the other side, and get to some other news and notes across the NFL as we get you ready for Week 4. Baseball, Red Sox still batting top one, up 3-0 right now in Toronto. Garrett Crochet loves to see that. Marlins up 1-0 in Philadelphia. We'll be back.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I would say a phenomenal year for the UConn graduate, as Paige Beckers could have came out last year to the WNBA, and she decided to come out this year. It would have been interesting if it would have been Paige or Caitlin Clark. I don't think it would have been as slam dunk as people think to go to Caitlin Clark.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Tom Vecchio is back with us. I am Adam Kaufman, and we are looking at some NFL player prop targets for Week 4. And I am curious, Tom, how do we invest, or do we, in Ladd McConkey? Now, this is a guy, I love Ladd McConkey. I wish Ladd McConkey was on my team. I bet everybody out there feels that way, the way that he performed as a rookie. Now, this year has been a little more up and down, and that is not because Justin Herbert thinks less of him or because he's playing poorly. It's just, he's just blessed with all these options. Keenan Allen back from Chicago and reclaiming his throne. as just a real safety blanket for Herbert, as he has been for many years. And Quentin Johnston suddenly showing promise and electric and reliable and all of these things that we've wanted him to be now for a little while. And so it's a question for Ladd of what is the number going to be? It was 69.5, and he has gone over. And that was week 1, of course, as you see there at 78 yards. And then weeks 2, weeks 3 against the Raiders and Broncos, well below those prop lines. 48 versus 76.5, 41 versus 65.5. Ladd is 3rd on the team in receiving yards, 3rd in targets, 2nd in receptions. The Giants, though, terrible defense, 3rd in yards allowed per game at 259.5 passing yards per game, that is, have allowed opposing wideouts to have at least 70 receiving yards each of the first 3 games. You see the guys on your screen: Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, RIP, playing wise, he's not actually dead, and Tyquan Thornton at 71 yards. What happens with Ladd here?
I'm inclined to buy, right? After a couple slow weeks, and it's partly due to the fact that at least I'm seeing his number at 59.5. So if his number was still at 65, whatever it is, I don't know if I'd be buying in. But the fact that we're getting 59.5 minus 110 on the over, I'm okay with that, right? This is like kind of a buy low spot. Like, we have seen his number now drop 3 consecutive weeks, or I should say 2 consecutive weeks now. But this is the 3rd week. I'm going to buy into it because, we do need to see balance in their offense. Seeing Quentin Johnston have a breakout, Keenan Allen back, all these things, like, you still need to have Ladd going to an extent. And maybe there is a more of an emphasis on the passing game because Najee Harris is now out for the season, and Harbaugh just doesn't want to give Amari Hampton 25 carries a game. He's going to be held to 16-ish. They're going to mix in Hassan Haskins is their 3rd string running back, and then they have this plethora of wide receivers. Like, now it's time for Ladd to score. Now it's time for Ladd to have his biggest game of the year.
Let's take a little look at Thursday Night Football, which, as we know, is just over 24 hours away here. Now, it's not necessarily the most compelling game on paper. Maybe it'll be a good game. The Seahawks in the desert to face the Cardinals. A couple of 2-1 teams. I would argue, though, Tom, 2-1 teams are not created equally. Both these teams are 2-1 against the spread as well. Seattle 2-1 to the over. Arizona 2-1 to the under. The road team is actually, if you like trends, won 14 of the last 20 decisions between these two teams. Seattle, though, is flipped. 2.5-point dogs at one point, now a 1.5-point favorite. The total has come down to 43.5 from 46.5. What's your read on this one?
I don't mind the Cardinals. I don't mind taking a home team on a short weekend of getting some points, and the fact that it flipped and you are getting them. I would not lay points with the Cardinals, but the fact that you get a point, maybe moves to 2, whatever it might be, I'm certainly on board with that. There's already a prop that I like in this game. And that's going to be Trey Benson, who's now the starting running back for the Cardinals, with James Conner being out for the rest of the season. Trey Benson under 60.5 rushing yards. The Seahawks right now have the 3rd best EPA per rush allowed. They're absolutely stout on defense. They're 8th in the league when it comes to rushing success rate. Obviously, this is on defense. And they're in the top 10 in the league for the fewest rushing yards allowed. So even though Trey Benson's going to see the lion's share of the work when it comes to the backfield, I think he'll actually have a good game potentially in the passing, receiving, but not rushing, under 60.5 for Trey Benson.
Do you have an early favorite bet for week 4?
That's a good question. As of now, I don't. I wouldn't mind seeing.
I'll throw you this one with about 30.
The Packers smash.
Okay.
They win by 10+.
The Micah Parsons revenge game. I like it. I'm on board with that as well. Real quick, because we got about 30 seconds. Ravens, favorites inside a field goal, about 2.5 against Kansas City at Arrowhead. 2 desperate 1-2 teams. Who emerges victorious in this one?
The Ravens do, but it's not going to be pretty, and they don't cover the number.
Interesting. Such a slim number, too. Maybe it comes down to a winning field goal. I like it. Tom Vecchio is on Twitter, Tom_Vecchio and the number 1. You can catch him, host and analyst here across SportsGrid. Always love having you on, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon.
sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I would say a phenomenal year for the UConn graduate, as Paige Beckers could have came out last year to the WNBA. And she decided to come out this year. It would have been interesting if it would have been Paige or Caitlin Clark. I don't think it would have been as slam dunk as people think to go to Caitlin Clark.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Our thanks once again to Tom Vecchio. We go back to baseball because how can you not here in the final week of the regular season? All the excitement going on across the diamond, wild card playoff races, divisional playoff races, and this is a treat. I went on Newswire earlier today with Craig Mish, and now Craig comes on Game Time Decisions with me. You can get Craig on Twitter at Craig Mish, easy enough to remember. Craig, how you doing?
I doubt it's a treat. That's definitely not the case, but I appreciate you saying it. It's a treat for Sam,
no,
maybe.
It's good to see you. Oh, Sam, he's a hyena back there. He can't control himself. Couple of games already final. So we saw the Nationals knock off the Braves 4-3, the Brewers 3-1 in San Diego against the Padres. More meaningful, though, games that are happening right now. Red Sox going top 2, already up 3-0 in Toronto. Garrett Crochet did allow a man or two on in the bottom of the first, but escaped unscathed. The Rays up 3-0 in Baltimore early on. Tigers Guardians are underway finally after a long weather delay. They are scoreless in the second. Pirates have taken a 1-0 lead top 4 in Cincinnati. A lot of people on the Reds today with Hunter Green on the mound despite Paul Skeens on the other side. Marlins up 1-0 looking for yet another win. That game in Philadelphia, bottom 3. And the White Sox and Yankees, they are scoreless, which if you are a New York fan, pretty disappointing because the bases were loaded there, bottom 1, and New York could not help out Max Fried. I just, to start things off, I guess let's begin in the American League East. How does this all unfold? Does Toronto hang on somehow, some way, and wind up winning this division? Does it trade places with the Yankees and become the top wild card spot? You know, how do you see this happening here?
Yeah, it just goes to show really what happens at the beginning of September. It doesn't matter until the end. It's so wild how baseball really has become more of the NCAA tournament at the end of the season, where the hottest teams go far and the teams that are struggling at the end don't really tend to do much. I mean, Adam, honestly, if the Mets were to win 5-6 games in a row, they could go from a team that maybe doesn't make it to all of a sudden the hottest team going into the playoffs. And I really think that that's a factor there. But to your point, the American League, I think of all the teams that are out there that need to win the division, I do think it's the Blue Jays. They can't really come this far and all of a sudden crumble. I think they're going to have a really hard time getting through the American League if they have to open up as a wild card. The Guardians are really hot. The Yankees are playing good baseball, and so is Seattle. And the timing would just be really bad for Toronto. And, again, struggling is not a huge deal, But the way that they're losing, as they lost last night and already off to a bad start tonight, I would be really concerned, Adam, if the Blue Jays ended up as the top wild card and had to play, let's say, Boston as an example. I could see them losing in a 3-game series to the Red Sox.
I mentioned Tigers and Guardians scoreless. That one is only top 2, but as you noted, beginning of September versus now, it's doesn't matter as much. Tigers had a 10-plus game lead a few weeks ago in that division on Cleveland, and then watch out, Guardians borderline unstoppable, and maybe by the end of this game tonight are sitting first place in the Central all of a sudden. So is Detroit going to even get into the playoffs at this point, or are the Tigers going to not only fall out of the lead in the Central but fall out behind the Astros in the wild card?
Yeah, it's a good question. Detroit was my pick actually to go to the World Series at the beginning of the season. I couldn't wait to jump all over that at the end and say I was right. And now I may not even get them in the playoffs here. I saw them, Adam, play in Miami a couple of weeks ago. And like, I guess if you didn't know any better and you didn't know what the Tigers record was, Adam, and then you watch them play, you would be like, wait a second, this team probably is not a 90-win team in baseball this season. They're kind of led by 2 or 3 players, Tariq Skubal, Riley Green, and then beyond that, I mean, I know the players because I follow baseball every day, but do they really have anyone that's going to scare you? I think some major mishaps were had probably at the trade deadline. I would have predicted that would be a team that would push their foot on the pedal, having basically nothing in the postseason for 10 years, and they didn't do anything. So, look, again, they could get hot at the end. They'd have Skubal in the last day of the season or close to it to get a win. Inevitably, Adam, I do think the Tigers will make it.
I know anything can happen in the next 4 or 5 days to change this conversation, but let's just pretend the playoffs began tomorrow. Who's the scarier team? Is it the Guardians or the Mariners? I mean, who's the most frightening team in the American League right now?
Probably Cleveland, because they're hotter than anybody else, and their pitching just seems to go 6-7 innings deep regardless of what it is, and their bullpen is built to win in the postseason. That's even without Emmanuel Clase. I think they're doing a great job. Cleveland's the hottest team in baseball, and if they continue on this run and continue to win, I definitely would be worried about them in the American League. As far as the National League is concerned, look, I think that whoever gets on a roll here, Adam, in this final week in the National League to get in that wild card, I mean, I got to say, I'd be a little worried if I was the Dodgers. I would be, because that whoever gets in is going to be as hot as anybody, whether it's the Mets or the Reds or the Diamondbacks, or who knows, maybe in a miracle situation, Sam's just like insulting, not putting the Marlins on there. What is wrong with him? I have no idea. I mean, where are the Marlins and my 0.02%? Can't you even throw a bone in that direction? He can't? All right. I'll have to pay him back for that. But, if the Marlins do win every game, Adam, the rest of the season, and the Mets do lose every game the rest of the season, the Marlins probably going to make the playoffs. Every game, though.
7 straight wins entering tonight. They are tied at 1 with the Phillies right now, though. So we'll temper expectations for just I
got to go back to it when I'm done.
But it's true. A couple of really compelling races, obviously, and as much as the NL West is one, maybe none more compelling than the desperation of the wild card standings, as you alluded to, because with Cubs, Padres, they're there. We know, or at least maybe the Padres do overtake the Dodgers. Either way, it's someone from the NL West, and it's the Cubs. The Mets, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, only one can get in. Who's it going to be?
Oh, if I pick the Mets, then that means they beat the Marlins this weekend, so I can't do that. I'll say the Reds get in. Although, what's really fascinating, this is takes people behind the scenes a little bit. There's only 2 times this season where the Marlins have sent out an email to the media saying that they're going to have to park somewhere else this weekend. So that tells me that they're going to be 30,000. And the other one was the Yankees. So that tells me that, look, there'll be Marlins fans there, Adam. But that tells me all the Mets fans are going to invade Lone Depot Park and hope that their team gets in the playoffs. Marlins have knocked them out before. I think they'll do it again. Give me the Reds to make the final wild card.
As far as the Dodgers, because you mentioned them before, should they be nervous right now? All of that, they've dipped to 3rd in the World Series odds. Philadelphia right now, as I look at it, plus 430. Seattle at 5-1. Crazy to have the top odds in the American League, but what have you done for me lately, right? And then they're the Dodgers, I guess co-favorites or second place at 5-1 as well. But is that deserving? Or is this just they're there because of all that unbelievable amounts of talent. And obviously they won last year, and it's name recognition and branding and all of this stuff. And that's where people would like to theoretically invest.
No, they could lose. And even if they get through the first round, Adam, I don't think that there's any guarantee that they get back to the World Series or even the National League Championship Series. The only thing that's really, I think, in the Dodgers' favor here is that if they were to match up against, let's say, Philadelphia in the NLCS, not having Wheeler there, I mean, I think that's just a massive loss for Philly, even though this kid Sanchez is just unbelievable. He pitched great again last night. But I think everybody is vulnerable going into the postseason. I really do. I don't put the Dodgers beyond that. I don't think this is like, Adam, the NBA, where you can just coast and then get in, and then you face the Magic or the Hawks, and then you move on. Like, I just don't think that that's the case. It's a 3-game series. The home field advantage in baseball is not like it is in the other sports. And if you're not careful, you can get knocked out.
One of our talking points on the show tonight, and I know we're down to about 30 seconds with you, Craig, but has been the MVP race in the American League. Aaron Judge, will he win it for a second straight year and third time overall versus Cal Raleigh? And maybe some voter fatigue against Judge, wanting to see something a little different. Not to mention, dude may walk away with 60-plus homers this year. Do you like Raleigh in the pick'em?
Yes, of course. He's a catcher. They gotta give the MVP to Cal Raleigh. I mean, Judge's numbers are like 22% better than Raleigh's offensively. Raleigh plays the most difficult position outside of quarterback in sports.
All right, Craig Mish on Twitter, @CraigMish. We thank you, sir. Back to the game for you.
The sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I would say a phenomenal year for the UConn graduate, as Paige Beckers could have came out last year to the WNBA, and she decided to come out this year. It would have been interesting if it would have been Paige or Caitlin Clark. I don't think it would have been as slam dunk as people think to go to Caitlin Clark.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Got to mix in some golf. What with the Ryder Cup coming up in just a couple of days, the controversial Friday start, at least in the mind of our next guest, good friend Cam Stewart. Cam Stewart live on Twitter. Always love when he is on. I joked earlier, Cam, you know, we're going to have the Canadian come in and weigh in on who's going to win this tournament between the Europeans and the Americans. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Adam. Nice to see you again. And you know what? Some of my best friends are from the United States, but unfortunately, they don't pay my mortgage. I have to look at what's going on here in golf, and then I see you're a plus 180. I'm listening. I'm looking. And the thing about it is, Bethpage Black is one of these courses too. I don't really think it helps the Americans that much in that. It's long. Rory's long. John Rahm's long. I know you have Bryson DeChambeau. But you know what? I'm just looking at this tournament going, I think the Americans obviously have the best player in the world in Scotty Scheffler. But when it comes to depth, I kind of look at Europe. Like, they got Rahm. They got Rory. They got Tommy Fleetwood. They got Ty Hatton. They got, like, all their guys, I think, are really, really strong. And I think their games suit this course very well. And then you look at the numbers. I'm like, you know what? You're giving me almost 2-1 on this team. And I get it. It's going to be tough. The crowds get wild. And Adam, you know the way it works. Glug, 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 glug. After a few vodkas and Bud Lights, these guys are going to be, screw you, Europe. You know what I mean? It's going to get, but the thing is, these guys, they live
Happy
for that
Gilmore.
stuff. Yeah. Hey, meet me at the Red Lobster. Like, yeah, exactly. Where's Joe Flaherty? Like, they're running down Happy Gilmore. No, honestly, like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, he's looking for a blow dart. But I'm going to tell you, this is the thing about these guys. The Europeans don't care about this stuff. Like, they have thick skin. They don't mind doing it, and they love playing the villain. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler, in my opinion, is the best. But then I look at some of these other guys going, you know, Colin Morikawa's had a horrible year. I wouldn't even put him on the team. I thought there were some other guys. The addition that I like is Cam Young. He's from New York. It's being played at Bethpage Black. It's interesting, but I see this thing more as a pick'em. So when I look at Europe at almost 2-1, you know me, Adam. It's about our wallets, right? Like it has nothing to do with, you know what I mean, Team USA versus Team Europe. And I'm looking at Team Europe going, I like them a lot. Europe's problem has always been the singles, but I'm looking up and down the list. And even their rookie, Rasmus Højgaard, is a very good player. I watch European Tour golf all the time, and I'm thinking, you know what? They got some great players. But I got a list for you here, Adam, and let's go through it.
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
Please.
I like Europe to win the Ryder Cup. This is the problem. Thursday, 4 o'clock, they pick the foursomes, but I think it's essential that Europe comes out to a hot start if they're going to win. Day one winner, they always do well in the four balls, plus 140. America kills them in the singles, which is on Sunday. Europe does well early. Top USA point scorer, Scotty Scheffler. We're getting plus 280, Adam. He's plus 280 to win a field of 155 guys, 162 guys. You know what? I don't even care. If it's Bryson DeChambeau, I'm getting Scotty Scheffler, the best player in the world for Top USA at what he is in a tournament. Fleetwood loves this event. He was 5-0 with Molinari when he paired up in France. Top USA rookie, I talked about it. Cameron Young. He's playing in New York. He's a New York guy. Let's rock. Top Scandinavian, we got Victor Hovland. What does he have to do? Beat one guy, Ludwig Aberg, because Højgaard is only going to play a little bit because he's a rookie. I love that pick. Scotty Scheffler, now this is total points in the whole event. Over 2.5, I'm there. Victor Hovland, we have 1.5 for Victor Hovland all day, all night, minus 130. And Ty Hatton, know what he is, Adam? An assassin. He lives for this stuff. He's a psychopath. And I'll tell you one thing, he'll feed on it. Like 1.5 for Tyrell Hatton. I know there's a little bit of juice here, but these half points are huge. I love Hatton over 1.5. I think he should be the surprise of Team Europe.
So like you noted, you get a considerably better number investing in Europe to win this thing. Yeah. And I understand why you would want to do it and chase that better number. But I have heard some people say, man, feels like, I mean, you said it, feels like a pick'em. Which way do you go? Some people look to the, again, home course, Bethpage, our soil, all that. If you're, the American side, best player versus the depth, as you alluded to there with the European side. Maybe if this thing is going to be close, the best way to bet it, even if you like Europe, is lift the trophy. Because obviously, if it's a tie, that goes to the other side. That goes to, that would go to whichever team, Europe. In the case of lifting the trophy here.
Because they won last time, right, Adam? So that's
correct.
The thing.
Right.
People
you could still get right around plus 125 on that.
Yeah, I saw plus 125. I think there's a 130 on FanDuel. And let me tell you this. So there's 28 points in this thing. You get 14.5, you win. But if they go 14-14, it's a tie. Europe gets it. Great astute point by you, Adam. And I talked to Gabe about this on our podcast. If you don't want to screw around and it goes 14-14, be very careful. Because if you take Europe to win at the plus 180, the tie's a loss. But to lift trophy at plus 125, 130, a tie means party time. Like you're cashing your bet because the team that won last time will retain the trophy. So I think it's going to be a great event. I have one issue with it, and I'm not the commissioner of the PGA Tour, but this is what I would do. These guys haven't been playing golf for a while. Scheffler played 2 weeks ago. Why the hell wouldn't you do it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Then you got college football on Saturday and NFL. And then people go, well, golf, for people who love golf. I love golf. But you don't think I'm betting college football in the National Football League on the weekend, Adam? Put me in the commissioner's office. There's no need to have this thing. You could have the opening ceremony on Tuesday, go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we're done. But hey, I'm not in charge. I work for SportsGrid. I make bets. I'm not the PGA Tour commissioner, but if I was, I would definitely change it.
I couldn't agree more with that. But just to get back to this real quick, while we're talking about, we've mentioned ties multiple times here. Is the 10-1 tie worth the sprinkle to you?
It's so hard though, Adam. You know what I mean? 10-1, like a tie in all the events. Like I'd probably want 15-20, but yeah, like I got no problem with it. I just want a little bit more. Thursday night football, Adam, too. My Seahawks are playing the Cardinals in the Battle of the Birds, baby. And I'll tell you, I love what Seattle's doing right now this year with Mike McDonald. Give me the Seahawks, and I usually take overs in these games, but you know what? I don't see a lot of points. 43.5 looks very, very low. Give me the Seahawks. Give me the under, my friend. I think it's going to be a great game. I can see Seattle winning like 21-17 type of game. And this team is really starting to figure it out. The defense is getting better. And you know what the best thing is? Everyone's ripping on Sam Darnold. You give him a little bit of protection, he'll slay you. That's the whole thing. Got to protect him. And Seattle's front four has been awesome so far this year.
He may not be the PGA commissioner, but he's my commissioner here at SportsGrid as far as I'm concerned. Cam Stewart on Twitter.
Thank you, Adam.
At Cam Stewart Live. Thanks, buddy.
Love you, man. Take it easy.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I would say a phenomenal year for the UConn graduate, as Paige Beckers could have came out last year to the WNBA, and she decided to come out this year. It would have been interesting if it would have been Paige or Caitlin Clark. I don't think it would have been as slam dunk as people think to go to Caitlin Clark.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Thanks to everyone part of today's show. Again, all of our guests, most recently Cam Stewart. Before him, we had Tom Vecchio, Mark Zinno, Craig Mish, also behind the scenes, helping to make everything look good, sound good, feel good, all of it. Chris and Sam, Patrick, Nick, everybody, we appreciate all of you. Again, Game Time Decision, 6:30 to 8 Eastern, Monday through Friday, right here on SportsGrid. We'll have Kevin Walsh back with you tomorrow. I'll be back with you again on Friday, leading you into the weekend. That'll be a lot of fun as well. And of course, we'll have some more Ryder Cup to get into on Friday, as well. The day in the books at Bethpage at that point in time. Just to let you know, and I'm not saying I'm not the golf handicapper, just to be frank. Like, there are sports that I handicap. Golf, not one of them. Handicap the handicappers, as my buddy Brady Cannon, who is a golf handicapper, likes to say. And you know, he and he's written about it, he's tweeted about it. You can see his articles and everything. And he, like Cam, very much in the camp of Scotty Scheffler, top American. One thing that Brady did that I think is interesting, if you think this thing is going to be close, if you view it as a virtual pick'em, Brady invested a plus money on both sides to win 1 to 3 points. So as long as you think this one is going to kind of come down to the wire on that final day, you get a good plus number, on either side of the fence on that. And historically, you know, we haven't really seen that of late, going back to 2023 in Europe, Italy specifically. It was a win for the Europeans by 5, by 10 back in 2021 for the Americans in Wisconsin, by 7 in France by the Europeans in 2018, by 6 in Minnesota by the Americans in 2016, by 5 in 2014 by the Europeans, and then back in 2012 in Illinois, which was the last time that a team failed to win on its own soil, when Europe won in Illinois at Medina, as we talked about. That was a 1-point difference. So if you think we're going to turn the clock back over a decade and, you know, get something really close, all the way down to the end, tie in play, all of these things, good plus money bet that Brady has given out. But yeah, if you think Scotty's going to be Scotty, best player in the world, as Cam noted, small field of teammates at that plus 280. It's a very favorable number. Look forward to it getting started here. Taking a look at what we have. Major League Baseball, end of 3 in Toronto. Red Sox continue to lead 3-0. Garrett Crochet has limited the, you would think, increasingly desperate Blue Jays to just 2 hits so far. Rays mid-5 going bottom in Toronto in what's generally a meaningless game, of course. 3-0, Rays still lead. Now the Tigers have taken a 1-0 lead, top 3 in Cleveland, and have 2 men on with 2 out against Tanner Bybee. See if they can get another one home. End of 5. Pirates are leading the Reds. That game is 1-0 in Cincinnati and going to the top of the 6th. Top 5 in Philadelphia. Phillies, who were down 1-0, have taken a 3-1 lead at home against the Marlins. Yankees did allow a run to score to the White Sox in the top of the 2nd, but they have just hit a 3-run homer, it looks like, to clear the bases. There were 2 men on, and now suddenly seeing that 3-1 advantage for New York, bottom 2. So after leaving the bases loaded in the bottom of the 1st inning, there in the Bronx, looks like it doesn't matter. The Yankees have now taken a 3-1 lead. I believe it was Bellinger at the plate with that long ball. So this game getting a lot more interesting, obviously, if you are somebody watching this division race to the finish there in the American League East, because we're going to be, if the Red Sox do what they're supposed to do and the Yankees keep doing what they're doing right now, we're going to be talking about a tie atop the AL East between Toronto and New York come the end of the night, which fascinating drama for the stretch run here of the regular season. Just want to get clarity, though, real quick on New York on that homer, just to let you know, because I think Bellinger might be batting right now. It was Judge, fittingly enough. Aaron Judge, 3-run homer. So I believe his 50th of the season it was. He's up to 108 RBI. So that might move the needle a little bit in the MVP race against Cal Raleigh. See on FanDuel here if we get updated odds or if it's locked up, given the fact that he is in action right now. But let's see real fast. Still minus 115 aside. You could still invest Cal Raleigh or Aaron Judge despite that 3-run homer. And again, Raleigh is sitting only 2 away from 60. Other compelling games still to come a little bit later on. Again, the Mets at the Cubs. That one starts in about 5-10 minutes. You will also have the Mariners at home against the Rockies. Dodgers at the Diamondbacks about an hour and a half from now. And Astros Athletics at the end of the night. So a lot of fun baseball on the way. But again, thanks to everyone who helped out with the program tonight, both on the air and behind the scenes. Look forward to being back with you on Friday and throughout the weekend. A lot of good football and baseball talk and golf on the way. We'll see you later.